Yeah, let's talk about Grok.
Let's talk about Grok. Okay. What I know about Grok is that it is got two modes. It's got a fun mode. It's got a normal mode. Um, it's also spitting out some misinformation, which is unsurprisingly considering
For an AI.
if this is an LLM, it's not perfect. But what I did listen to and reported on was Elon Musk sitting down with Lex Friedman on the Lex Friedman podcast, and Lex actually asked Grok what Elon Musk has been wrong about in the past. And it was very funny when the AI pulled up like a list. It was like, oh, Elon's been wrong a lot. And Elon's sitting there and he's like, what? What's going on? So they pulls up a list, and a few of the honorable mentions were the infamous funding secured tweet for him taking Tesla private, and then he had to pay a $50 million settlement.
Yeah.
That was wrong, according to Elon. It wasn't. The jury found him not guilty, and the only reason he paid that settlement was because Tesla was going to go bankrupt if he didn't go through, if he went through the court process, because the banks would have frozen their lines of credit, and Tesla would have instantly gone bankrupt. So he paid $20 million or however much it was. It's a speeding fine for Elon. It's literally like getting pulled over, and he's like $100 speeding fine. He's like, yeah, okay, whatever. That's about all that I know. I'm not sure what LLM is it built on.
So so Elon Musk's Grok is from Elon Musk's AI startup XAI.
Yeah.
And and it is trained using X data. So it's called Grok, and that's a name from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And the description, the official announcement sounds kind of like it was written, or at least Elon went over it. It's going to have a rebellious streak. It's please don't use it if you hate humor, which is always like a silly thing to say anyway. Like, I don't know, you don't like humor. It's like, all right, whatever.
But who's using like, I'm not going to go get my jokes from ChatGPT.
Yeah. And well, Grok's real-time knowledge of the world comes via X, the social media platform previously known as Twitter. So what they showcased was some of the metrics for measuring the intelligence of a large language model or AI, maths problems that it can solve, that not calculator problems with numbers, but worded problems. Like if you have two of these and then you go here, elementary or high school level, worded math problems where you have to kind of decipher the sentence. And apparently it scored better than ChatGPT 3.5. Obviously it's and other large language models at this point in its beta stage. And they're chalking that up to testing it or training it using X data or Twitter data. So that's what it's trained with. And they obviously say it's obviously going to get better over time. And the other thing is that, they're not going to limit it. It's going to work within obviously all the laws around AI or whatever the regulations are in place, but it's going to support all backgrounds and political views, and it's going to be a little bit spicy according to that's the actual wording in the announcement. It's going to answer spicy questions. It's not going to be say, sorry, I can't do that. But if obviously you're going to ask it how to make homemade
bombs,
illegal stuff or
whatever,
drugs or whatever, I doubt it's going to say, oh yeah, this is what you do.
No, it's going to operate within the laws of whatever
and
land
if
that
all
you're
backgrounds and political views, that's such a broad term. I don't think that the AI is going to reinforce racial stereotypes or say things that are overtly racist or things like that. If you prompt it to, that will just be stupid, right? That'll be insensitive or and the goal, they say, is to better humanity. So it's a little bit all over the place, the description. It's still in beta. some of the other examples are actually quite cool. Like Elon Musk posted like one of the very first examples, because it's based on X, like trained on like X data and things like that. And they're like asking him about, like obviously asking Grok about Elon, and it's coming back with like, pretty fun sort of responses. But then other people that have been using it have been prompting it to say like, tell me like, all these great things about Elon Musk, and then like it would come back with all these things, and they're trying to say that like, okay, obviously he wants to make sure that Grok paints him in a positive light, but which obviously his Elon Musk's detractors or critics would obviously go that route. But like with any sort of AI, it's early, and I just think the whole, it's going to be fun and funny and spicy, interesting, and we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, it's not that's not the approach that I would have taken with it, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like Elon originally made OpenAI as a counterweight to Google and Microsoft for their AI developments. And then OpenAI turned from being open source to closed source and for profit, instead of what Elon's original intention was open source, non-profit, and a counterweight to Google and the rest of the companies developing AI programs. And then in 2016, I'm pretty sure he tried to take over the company. The board said no. He pulled funding and basically went like that with his hands with OpenAI. And then he formed this as I suppose another counterweight to OpenAI, Google, and the rest of it.
Also as well, it's kind of like you do it because you have to, almost like you're compelled, right? Like if you're X and you're not developing AI, like how does that look for being on the cutting edge, or to investors, or whatever the case is? Like if you're Microsoft and you're not heavily investing in AI, if you're Nvidia, if you're Apple, if you're you just have to. Like if you're Google, like everybody is doing it. Like it's almost, you're compelled. So like Grok doesn't seem so much. It seems like almost inevitable. It's like, yeah, okay, you have to. Like Elon and X, they kind of like have to do AI now, or have to have their own large language model.
The real-time information is going to be very interesting, because misinformation happens in real time as well as truth. Yeah. So it'll be interesting in the future when people are looking to or trying to use Grok to determine if something is correct or not. What happens when there's like a wave of misinformation comes out? I don't know. Say if it's a really contentious political topic, like, I don't know, Joe Biden's like laptop or Joe Biden's son's laptop or something like that, where there is a wave of information regarding this thing and everyone's like, oh, thinking one way, including the AI, and then within 15 minutes another story comes out and it's all of that information was actually wrong. So
I know that's the weird thing, like,
but that's how humans work. Like I think that's right? More accurate than
stories evolve. So like as long as like Grok's responses evolve and they're not set in stone, like the dangerous thing is that if AI presents a certain point of view and that's it, right? And there's an inherent bias based on, not necessarily like based on like any sort of like insidious or like, that's how it's designed, but based on the sources it's using or how it's being trained. And then it's just going to reinforce what's already out there. The tricky part is like, and it's an admirable thing. It's like, if you want to represent all backgrounds and political views, that doesn't necessarily mean the bad side of everybody. We don't want to, like you can read that and saying like, oh, you're just going to showcase like oppressive views, or like, anti this views or anti that views. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means that you're going to get both sides of a particular political position. Like, for example, like, if it is a debate about geopolitics in the Middle East or whatever. Like ideally you'll get like a more nuanced response. It's not just going to be pro this or pro that, or one side or one government says this and that's it.
Yeah, it all comes down to your prompt as well. It was funny to watch Lex ask what Elon's been wrong about, and then like just in front of him, the AI is like pulling up like dot points, and he's like, "Oh no." Most of the problems that he's been, well, quote unquote, wrong about were not meeting deadlines with predictions for, like, say, the Cybertruck or, Starship launching or whatever. And, he's like, oh, well, these were predictions. These weren't, set in stone. Like, I predicted that's when this would be, these products would release. But he self-recognized and said, I'm pathologically optimistic about certain things, perhaps to the point where my optimism doesn't meet the deadline. But he said he's like, I always deliver though. So while it might be delayed, I do come out with whatever I'm saying that I'm going to come out with. So
best to be like aim and like, super high and miss than to be just like super conservative and not, and just like maintain like, boring.
Yeah, boring. Not good for news. Not good for investors.
I'd rather like somebody say, "Hey, we're gonna be on Mars by this date," and you're like, "Whoa, okay." And we're going to develop the technology ourselves. And we're going to get there, and we're going to colonize. And we're going to do this by this date, and and then fast forward to that date, and you're nowhere near there, but you have been trying. It's like, why would I criticize you? I mean, you're doing something,
and you're providing updates along the way as well.
Yeah, it's like, why? Like, what's the harm? Like.
Yeah, I'm more excited when you're saying I'm going to be on Mars by this day rather than I'm going to be in Mars. Like, say this day is 10 years from now, and then you provide updates along the way, and I'm following along with the story rather than you providing no updates and being like, well, actually, we're going to be there in 20 years is more of an accurate thing. It's like, just lead me along a little bit. Just I like the foreplay with it. That's nice.